Hello, my name is Laila Cecilia Lara. I'm in Psychology 2301, Section 62, and today I'll be presenting my critical thinking presentation on review of addressing sexual and relationship violence in the LGBT community using a bystander framework. When it comes to the explanation of the issue, the authors are very straightforward, explaining that two of the major issues that they will be discussing in the article will be sexual and relationship violence. They later on go explaining that sexual violence and relationship violence is very common among college students, not only in heterosexual relationships but in LGBT relationships. They later go on to explain that LGBT victims are afraid to report their abuse because they're afraid of being judged. Programs don't know how to deal with them, especially those that train bystanders to intervene from violence occurring, and do not know how to deal with it when it comes to same-sex relationships. Not only that, but they're afraid of being judged and exiled from society because of their preferences when it comes to sexuality. They also discuss how many college programs are not properly trained to support LGBT victims. Some of the evidence the authors use is very strong, and they come from professional evidence, such as Bonnies Fisher, who is a professor in the Division of Criminal Justice and Research, fellow in the Center of Criminal Justice Research at the University of Cincinnati, and her book can also be found in the National Institute of Justice in Bureau of Justice. Not only did they use Bonnies Fisher as evidence, but they also use Toro and Herman's evidence on the article of Family Support for Family Violence, Exploring Community Support Systems for Lesbian and Bisexual Women Who Have Experienced Abuse. They later on go including statistics about sexual violence on college campuses and research showing that LGBT individuals also experience high levels of abuse. They also follow the evidence explaining that LGBT victims avoid seeking help because they fear losing support from their family or facing homophobia. They go very into detail what are the reasons why LGBT victims do not report their abuse, and how the perpetrators manipulate them and scare them from even thinking about it, reporting their situation. Influence and context and assumptions. One important point in the article is that they explain that people assume violence only happens in heterosexual relationships, when the reason they don't think it happens in LGBT community in LGBT relationships is because those victims of the same sex do not report the crimes, so those crimes cannot be recorded and be used to give information to programs that deal with sexual violence to help those of same sex. Later on, the author explains that there's limited funding and lack of understanding other ways to prevent LGBT individuals from receiving support and resources due to the lack of reports. LGBT members do not have the enough resources or help to help them. When it comes to position, college and prevention programs should come more inclusive and better trained to help LGBT victims of sexual and relationship violence. Programs that use the bystander framework should teach people how to recognize and respond to violence in LGBT relationships. As well, this would also help create a safer environment and a safer campus for students who are part of the LGBT community without having the fear of having knowing that they'll be judged if something happens to them when it comes to sexual relationship violence, that they will be able to seek help without that fear, and knowing that the programs that deal with sexual violence, they will be able to help them even if they come from the same sex. In conclusion, sexual relationship violence is very common in LGBT communities, and it's a very serious issue that deserves more attention. If campuses, college campuses, and sexual prevention programs show that everybody's welcome, everybody will listen, whether you're from part of the LGBT community, it doesn't matter. They will continue to help you either way, since you are dealing with sexual relationship violence. LGBT victims often face fear due to this, of knowing that many programs don't know how to deal with violence from the same sex. But this article really shows that prevention programs need to improve their training and provide equal support for everyone, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity. And these are my references. Thank you very much for listening.